Welcome back to Odyssey News. I am Mike Odyssey, and the potential for Nintendo Switch 2 information leak just increased because of a situation that is ongoing between Microsoft and Sony. Let's go ahead and talk about this.
Welcome to the Odyssey, hit the like, press play. You're running with the squad like Xenoblade. Drive like Mario, we on a...
So before we get into today's stories, you see, I want to ask you one thing. I want to ask for your subscription. You see, I'm legally blind and I'm basically losing my sight as we go. I don't have sight on my left eye and I have about 40% sight of my right eye, and it's just fading away, right? The doctors right now have nothing else they can do, but I have a dream to become a full-timer on YouTube by the end of this year. And I want to ask you for your help. If you subscribe to this channel right now, it'll only take a second. For me, it'll just change my life. So if you could do that right now, I would really appreciate it. Here, we have Monday through Friday Nintendo news. On the weekends, we have products and reviews. And we also have the occasional Nintopic podcast with your favorite voice actor. So I would really appreciate it. It would mean the world to me. And I just want to thank you in advance for giving me your subscription. Let's move on to today's stories. Before we get into this, I just want to remind you all that we are on our way to 40K, and every 10,000 subscribers giving away a Switch OLED or a PS5 console of your choice. All you have to do is subscribe, turn that bell on for notification, join our Discord to claim the prize, and of course, follow us on social media if you haven't. Let's move on. Now, before we get into today's main story, here's a little update on Nintendo's latest stories through Rapid Fire News. The latest Nintendo eShop charts are out, and right now we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at number 1, Mega Man Battle at number 2, Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp at number 3, Super Mario 3D World at number 4, Super Mario Wii U at number 5, Boomerang Fu at number 6, Minecraft at number 7, Super Mario Odyssey at number 8, Super Smash Bros. At number 9, and Just Dance 2023 at number 10. Next up, we have Mario Movie setting another animation box office record in its third week with $58 million. And this on top of Metacritic also downgrading the movie once again and setting the expectation that, hey, Metacritic critics no longer matter, fans reign supreme, and one lesson, don't mess with Nintendo fans. Go Mario Movie. And Shigeru Miyamoto reiterates there are more Nintendo movies on the way, and we will talk more about that in tomorrow's news. Now on to today's top story, which has to do with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal and the FTC wanting more information from Nintendo on the deal between Microsoft and Nintendo. So let's go ahead and talk about this. We need to focus on what it says here. The FTC wants more information on Nintendo regarding the deal between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. So let's do a quick recap of the entire story just to get you up to date and to make this news make sense here, because this is why the Nintendo Switch 2 information leaked in the first place and why it might leak again. Now, it all started with Microsoft trying to purchase Activision Blizzard and basically acquiring the rights for Call of Duty. Now, Sony was not happy with this, so they stepped in, tried to block the deal, and cause the entire world market when it comes to gaming to jump in when it comes to the authority over in UK, the FTC here in the United States, and a lot of other things around the world trying to block this deal. Now, Nintendo has nothing to do with it at all, but because of Microsoft being in the position that they are, trying to defend themselves and stating that no, they will not make Call of Duty one console franchise, like they will not make it their own first party game. They are going to continue putting Call of Duty on other platforms. Well, they in first hand and out of good faith signed a Nintendo deal with Nintendo, right? They signed a 10-year deal with Nintendo, promising that after the Activision Blizzard deal is completed and Microsoft has full control of the Activision everything, then they would have a 10-year deal where Microsoft would deliver the game over to Nintendo, and also offered the same exact deal to PlayStation, where PlayStation actually denied it. Now, I tried to go ahead and give you the details of that in a nutshell, which brings us to the first time information for Switch 2 was leaked, and this was due to the CMA, which is the United Kingdom's Competition and Markets Authority, and them also wanting to know more information on Nintendo's deal with Microsoft. And so let's go ahead and look over that story so that we can go over the story that we have today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read over comicbook.com's reporting of this story back in February, since I believe that they have the less fluff in the story and they go straight to the point. So let's go ahead and read here. Nintendo is working on its next-gen console, but what will it be or what will it be called remains a mystery. Most are speculating that it will be the successor to Nintendo Switch, and this is what rumors and leaks point to as well. Whether it be called Switch 2, probably not. It apparently will bolster Nintendo Switch Online. So basically, whether it's called Switch 2 or has another name, it looks like Nintendo Switch Online will move forward with the system. If this happens, it will be a surprise to many because Nintendo is infamous for not bringing forward its online services. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. The hint of Nintendo Switch Online being carried over to the next-gen console comes in the way of the United Kingdom's Competition and Market Authority. The CMA released a series of documents pertaining to the potential acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft. In one of these documents, the CMA makes note that Nintendo Switch Online is only available via Nintendo Switch devices and redacted, leaving a lot to speculate that this redacted has to do with Nintendo's next-gen console, because today Nintendo Switch Online is only available between the current Nintendo Switch Lite, and of course you could actually argue the Nintendo Switch Online app for your mobile device, which gives you access to Nintendo Switch Online. Doesn't give you games, but it gives you access to it. So obviously the $1 million question here is, what the heck is redacted, right? What does that redactive mean? So because of this investigation by the CMA regarding Nintendo and the deal between Activision Blizzard and Microsoft, this information got leaked. Now moving on to today's story, which is basically looking like an encore presentation of what happened with the CMA. The FTC wants more information on the 10-year deal with Call of Duty and Nintendo, right? So first and foremost, this deal has to do with Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. Sony is blocking it because they think that Call of Duty will only be a Microsoft. Microsoft, out of good faith, signed this 10-year deal with Nintendo, and now because of this 10-year deal, FTC wants to know more information that's already out there, because information is already out there thanks to the CMA. Now, what do they mean by wanting more information? And let's go ahead and read into today's news. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission has said it wants more details, again, more details regarding the deal between Microsoft and Nintendo. Mind you, this deal has to do with Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. Nintendo is just stuck in the middle. So they want more information on the deal between Microsoft and Nintendo on the 10-year Call of Duty deal for Nintendo platforms. Takedown reports that the Federal Trade Commission has subpoenaed Steve Singer, Nintendo of America's Vice President of Publishing and Developer Relationships, to deliver a 7-hour testimony to the FTC complaint console. Mr. Singer was in charge of negotiating the deal between Microsoft and Nintendo. Now, guys, this part right here, I feel there's something a little fishy going on here, at least when it comes to the FTC, just because they are apparently breaking some rules in order to make this happen. They are maybe flexing their muscles in trying to stop this deal or delay it, but it's the government, so you can expect that. Let's go ahead and read here. Nintendo of America legal counsel alleges that FTC did not order the subpoena until it learned that Singer was the Nintendo executive responsible for the negotiations with Microsoft. The FTC asked for the identity of Nintendo's negotiator on the March 16th and served a subpoena on March 29 and 30th. Both the identity request and the subpoena serving were made after the case subpoena deadline on March 3rd. Now, this means that the FTC wanted to know who was the person in charge of negotiating, which basically, who cares? Nintendo has their own lawyers, Nintendo has their own people negotiating, but the FTC wanting to know, first thing, the identity. Once they learned the identity, they forgot about all deadlines and then issued a subpoena. A subpoena means they issued a court order for this person to appear in court, the guy in charge of negotiating, to appear on court for a 7-hour interrogation. 7 hours interrogating a man over a deal that has to do with Microsoft and Activision. And well, Nintendo is only involved because Microsoft signed a deal with them for 10 years that they will bring Call of Duty over. Now, Microsoft and Nintendo, they agreed to their deal, and now we have the FTC trying to figure out what more information they can get from this 10-year deal. And since all of the information is already out there thanks to the CMA, including the fact that this deal will continue onto Redacted, which is apparently the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, the question is, does the FTC want to know the name of the next-gen console to where Nintendo will apparently have the Call of Duty games? Because as of right now, all the information that the FTC needs in order to understand the deal between Nintendo and Microsoft, the 10-year deal, is already out there. The information that is not out there has been redacted because it's Nintendo's private information on products that has not released yet, that have not released yet. It's not out in the public, so Nintendo cannot provide that information, giving this leeway that more information regarding the next-gen system or Nintendo's future plans could leak out there. Now, the 10-year deal with Microsoft is already signed between Nintendo and Microsoft, and Call of Duty will come to Nintendo Switch if Microsoft does gain access to Activision Blizzard. That's done. Now, the real question here is, what does the FTC really want? Because they're going as far as to literally breaking rules. They are breaking the rules of giving a subpoena over someone who was in charge of negotiating a deal for Nintendo's 10-year deal, right after the deal deadline, right after the subpoena deadline. Not only did they break the deadline, but they want to interrogate this person for 7 hours, all on the 10-year deal. Now, how much information can you give out, and how many people will be hearing that information in 7 hours regarding the 10-year deal between Microsoft and Nintendo? This, ladies and gentlemen, is a recipe for Nintendo having to provide more information than they need to, thus giving us a bigger potential of information regarding the Switch 2 to come out into the area. And guess what? This can also alter Nintendo's timeline when it comes to a Nintendo Switch 2 release. Will they be forced to release or at least announce a Nintendo Switch 2 with this name because of this issue they're having now with the FTC wanting to know more information on this deal? Let me tell you, this is very well possible. Nintendo will potentially be forced to issue an announcement for the Nintendo Switch console, for the next-gen console, because if they want some information to get out there, they might as well do it themselves rather than be forced to leak information because the FTC wants to know a little bit more just because they found out that Singer was the one responsible for doing the negotiations between Microsoft and Nintendo for this 10-year deal to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo systems. This all seems just a bit fishy for me, and a potential for disaster when it comes to leaks happening. I hope this does not affect Nintendo at all. If it does, I hope Nintendo gets ahead of it and they do maybe just make the announcement for the next gen console, have a presentation, get the name out there, get the specs out there, and then have a potential release for for later in the year. All right, so I want to know what your thoughts are, guys, down below in the comments. What do you think about this whole fiasco with Nintendo being struck in the middle of this deal between Activision and Blizzard? Sony is no mention in this report whatsoever, which Sony was the one who actually blocked the deal, having to put, Microsoft and Nintendo through this entire fiasco, and now Nintendo being put in the position of having even more information potentially leaked, because information did leak for Nintendo. Now they want to know more of what's already out there from this 10-year deal. Let's continue this conversation and let me know what you guys think down below. That is going to do it for today's episode of Odyssey News. But before I let you go, I have two important things I need to let you know. Number one, never give up. And number two, journey on. Peace.
We're on a journey, looking back on the things that we've taken for granted, but feels like we're learning to be better without what's been holding